So welcome back to another episode of Classroom Management. Um, all the information that I give you, basically, you were able to tailor to your own classroom. Um, I do like to start off my conversations with a cup of coffee. So if you want to grab your coffee and join me, we can get started. So tips for keeping it real in the classroom. So some of the things I did talk in the prior video was about being prepared in the classroom. And a lot of teaching is mostly about preventing what could happen in the classroom. So you want to prevent things like behavior, interruption of instruction, students kind of just leaving your classroom. All those things you want to take some steps to prevent from happening. So for that to happen, you have to feel like you're prepared as an educator. So I'm hoping my videos help you be a little more prepared, kind of lessens the anxiety about teaching these 40 minutes or 80 minutes block of time, or if you're a teacher, a grade teacher that teaches for the full day, I'm hoping you can use some of the information as well. So this goes out to all educators, no matter whatever grades that you end up teaching. So I'm hoping to help anybody out. So as I mentioned, organizing your time in the classroom is huge. Timing in the classroom is one of the most important things to learn as an educator. When you're in your first year of teaching, that is a hard thing to grasp. I know for myself, it was hard the first year. I started to learn, I think it was more my second or third year of teaching, I started to realize the importance of timing. I also started to realize that if I'm disorganized as an educator and I'm not really figuring out my own schedule for that lesson or how long it's supposed to go, how much time are they supposed to work for, then your class will be disorganized too. And I quickly realized that as an educator. For this video, I am going to talk about high school and middle school, the longer periods of time. So teaching for that 80-minute block of time, and what does that look like? The key to teaching middle school and high school is to understand the pace of the classroom. Pacing your class is something students need. They need to know, okay, how long is the instructor going to be teaching for? How long do I have time to work on what she just gave us for information? And then where do I place my work after it's done? Things like that, they need to know ahead of time when you're teaching. So that'll help with the chaos of any classroom too. What I mean by this basically is understanding who your students are. There's all different types of learners. And I will get into all the different types of learners on the next slide. You need to fully understand all the dynamics in the classroom as well. So what I mean by that is if you have different learners in the classroom, that affects the dynamics of how the classroom is run. So you have your different learners. I'm going to mention about 7 of them today. Students that you'll see in your class. So some are visual learners. Those are the students that really learn well from a PowerPoint or from the educator demoing their lesson. Then you have your auditory learners. So some really like to watch videos as part of the lesson, or they just are better at kind of hearing what you're saying versus seeing and doing, and then the next one is verbal. So those are the students that need to kind of have that class conversation with you. And they really excel at those conversations. So when you open up a class discussion, they're the first ones to raise their hand. And they have that need to kind of talk as well. It's okay to have students engage in that way where you're talking, they're talking, as long as it's appropriate to the lesson. Then there's your physical. So these are the students that they do need to kind of walk around the classroom a little bit. It's okay to have them work for a little bit, but do have an understanding as an educator that sitting for 80 minutes is very hard for most students, whether you're teaching middle school or high school. Um, that's a long block of time, and they tend to get anxious a little bit with that kind of time that they're told to sit down for the whole time. So even having students kind of get up and stretch a little bit at their seat, if you don't want them walking around the room, then that's another way around that. And then to have them sit back down to do their project or lesson. Then you have your mathematical thinkers. These are students that tend to need a bigger concept that's being taught to them, usually broken down even more in detail. So these are your detailed thinkers. Then you have your social learners, and those are the students that really excel at your group projects. So whether you're partnering them up with one other student or you're placing them in a group with 3 or 4 other students for kind of a mini class discussion, those students excel at that. Then you have your solitary learners. So those are your students that kind of work better individually, kind of on their own. Those students also, your solitary learners, have trouble kind of working when you break them up in small groups. They might have some anxiety with that. They also have some anxiety if you have a class discussion. They might feel a little uncomfortable with that process. So just remember that with your solitary learners. I do want to get into the benefits of teaching an 80-minute class. It's a long block of time to organize, but there's wonderful benefits to it as well. So as I mentioned, timing in the classroom, it is a craft that you will get better at over time. And organizing your curriculum to coincide with that timing will also be something that you'll get better at over time. Some of the positives for teaching an 80-minute block of time. So you're teaching middle school and high school. The benefits are, as an instructor, you can deliver more complicated assignments. So even breaking up your assignments to run from Monday to all the way to Friday, you can kind of do that because, one, you see your students more often, and then they have bigger blocks of time to actually work on their assignments. So in return, because it's an 80-minute block of time, you also get really high quality work turned in from your students because they were able to have a longer time just listening to the teacher, following instruction for about 3 days, and then you can even do 3 days of working on that concept. The other benefit is that the students end up leaving your class really knowing the standard of what you were trying to teach them because they've had a bigger block of time to learn it. Another benefit as an educator, that 80 minutes gives you a little more time to prep more engaging lessons. It gives you more planning time as well. So those are some of the positives. 80 minutes. How do you break up that time? So you start with about, instead of like the 40-minute lessons with elementary, where you're not going to really get up and talk for 20 minutes. But for middle school and high school, you will get up and talk for about 20, 25 minutes. Sometimes that even runs around 30 minutes for instruction. You may be showing a video, PowerPoints, demoing, all sorts of things as an instructor. And then you should have the students working for a good 40 minutes of that time, especially as an art teacher. You want to really let them get consumed into their project for a good 40 minutes. and then you want to allow 20 minutes for them to clean up. Usually with high school, students have a bigger mess to clean up, so give them that time to kind of clean up, whether they're working in paint, mixed media, plaster work. You want to give them time to clean up the classroom before your next class gets there. Sometimes setting an alarm, middle school and high school, you really see this. They get so consumed in their projects that they really don't want to stop. They don't want to stop. They finally get to that point where they're being creative and they're kind of zoned out. So a good way around that is kind of setting an alarm, just like either on your phone or on your computer. Let them know, hey guys, when the alarm goes off, we do have to stop and clean up. A lot of students with a secondary teaching also like to have more than one day for projects. Now I'm speaking for other art educators, and something you can use in your classroom. But they like, if you're teaching an 80-minute block, they do like more than one day to work on their projects. So a good way to kind of organize a Monday through Friday week is to have projects due roughly every Friday. Now, the other benefit for teaching 80 minutes is that you can also do more long-term projects with them, not just the short-term. So you can do more like 3-month projects or a 30-day project, and I'm speaking from an art educator, even having them like explore a new artist, come up with a PowerPoint with that artist, and then maybe even write an essay. So really building on all those skills is important for them. And it brings me to my last slide, my next video. If you will join me again with a cup of coffee, is ways to start class before starting formal instruction. So I'm going to give you some great tips on just when your class is first showing up in your room and they're sitting down, and you're kind of settling the class down. What are some tips? And so definitely check out my next video. I also want to mention that definitely share my content with any other educators, and comment and hit that share button, and definitely hit subscribe. I'm basically just a passionate educator trying to share my knowledge with other educators and other adults that think that maybe this is a profession they want to get into. I'm hoping my videos can help you out. All right, thanks guys, and definitely check out the next one. Remember, it's ways to start your class before starting formal instruction. All right, see you in the next one. Bye.